Hey neighbors, it's Brad at eTrailer, and today I want to walk you through a look and the installation of the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit. Now, this kit allows the lighting functions of your coach to be transferred to your vehicle, which in this case we have a 2020 Chevrolet Equinox. So as you can see, the turn signal on our coach is on, and it's also transferring that on our vehicle, which for people behind us, makes it easy for them to see what you're doing. So the diodes install behind your taillight to your factory wiring. These prevent backfeed from the motor coach to protect what wiring you have in your vehicle. This is going to be one of 5 main components while flat towing a vehicle. One of them being your base plate, your tow bar, your safety cables, and your braking system. So installation is pretty straightforward. You're running a wire from the front of the vehicle to the back of it and tying into your lighting functions on your tail lights. Now you do have to run the wire underneath the vehicle, so if you're doing this on the ground, that might get a little tricky, but that's really the hardest part of it. We've just gone through some of the features. Now I want to walk you through the installation of it. So for running our wiring to the back of the vehicle, there's a few different options. The main thing that you're really going to be making sure that you're doing is keeping away from moving parts or hot parts, anything that would cause the wiring to break down over time. So the way that we found that works well is we put a piece of tape here on this bracket, and that's going to keep it in place as you're rolling it to the back of the vehicle. So as you can see, it's going to follow this base plate and it tucks in behind the bumper support. Now from there, we tucked it through. There's a small little hole up here that we were able to poke that through. And as you can see, we had the fender liner pulled back, and then it feeds over this little hardline bracket to this back inner panel of your fender. And what we did is we loosened this up, ran it through here, and then tightened that back down, just kind of keep that in place. Coming along, you have your cross member. It feeds on top of that to your hard lines. A few zip ties along the way will help keep it in place. Now we were able to feed it underneath this bracket. We did not have to remove this, just simply feed it through and make sure it's nice and clean, not catching on anything. And then we follow this wire loom. And as you can see, there's this little handle here for your tank. We use that. And then this gets a little tricky, it's a little tight above here, but above the A-arm, there is a hard line that curls up, and you might be able to see that there. So I put that up there with a zip tie, and we're going over our suspension mount and over our rear cross member, which brings us to here. So once you have the wire ran to the back, you're going to want to separate them. So your white is going to be your ground, so you can separate it, leaving about, I would say, 4 inches or so, enough to put this on a ground. And then your green you can also separate because you'll be running that up to your existing taillight wiring. Okay, we have this separated, so our ground is going to run right here to the chassis of the car. So I'm going to just do a little clip here. And we will strip that end. All right. From there, supplied in our kit, we do have this little connector. A nice little twist on the wires. Slide that in. Crimp those down nicely. Also included in the kit is a self-tapping screw. So you can see these dimples here in the frame. I'm going to use those to actually drill into. Now while doing this, you also want to hold on to the actual connector itself. That way it doesn't start spinning around. So we're going to remove the tail light. It's pretty simple on these. So you have these plastic covers. You can use a trim panel tool or a very small flathead just to kind of pry that cap up. Don't worry too much, they are attached, so don't worry about it dropping. You're going to see there's a T15. So pop these both out. Take our T15. So once those are out, you're going to want to use a plastic trim tool here so this doesn't mar your paint, scratch it, or anything like that. You're simply going to kind of just wedge it in there, that back corner You may have to work from a bigger gap. Let's try this side here. There we go. Real nice and light. Kind of work it forward. Now from here, you're going to have this little electrical clip. Simply slide this guy back, and it should come out with a small little pinch here. We have this off now. Go ahead and repeat that on the other side. So we have our wiring underneath. We're going to have to feed that up. So that can be tricky. There's a few different ways you can do that. You can use a wire hanger, feed that down to fish it up. If you don't have one of those, simple trick here. You see you have a little nut here on a string. And you can drop that down and slowly kind of bounce it around if you have to, and it'll slowly find its way down there with some gravity. And there we are. So we can tie this off to something up here so it doesn't fall all the way through, and we'll be able to use that to pull the wire up. There we have it. And then pull your excess wire. So we're going to start by trimming this tape around where the wires are. Now be very careful not to cut the wires, obviously. So a good method is cut up and kind of just hook a corner and then work your way down. So our yellow wires are break. We're going to take our blue Spade connector from the diode, slip that on there. So we'll take our gray with yellow, which is our break. We're going to make a little cut here. Try to even it out with this. We'll take our Spade connector. And then next, from the plug, we're also going to strip this back and put a Spade connector as well. You're going to take the plug side and attach it to the single side on the diode. Make sure it slips in there. And the other two are going to go on the double side. So you're going to cut your factory wire here. You're going to want to make it about the same length as this one. So go ahead and make that cut. Our running light is white with yellow. And we'll strip it off. You're going to go ahead and repeat that with your running light signal as well. So from the clip, you're going to put your single side. And put this on the double. So for this step, we have our extra wire that we cut off, the brown and yellow. We separated that, and what we're going to do is take our brown and strip that. So this is going to be the wire that runs across to the other side. So you're going to want to grab the yellow connector that's on the diode. And these will feed in together into this connector. Now you are able to plug this in to the other part of your diode. You're going to feed the rest of that brown wire down the hole, and that way you can run it across later. So next you're going to take one side off this double stick tape. You're going to place these together. You're going to want to zip tie these all together. Just like that. Running the brown wire across the top tube of the hitch, I noticed once I came to the other side, I might not have enough to reach to that taillight. So what I did is cut a nice little piece from our white wire that we had extra of and I use the included butt connector to make it slightly longer. So now that we have our extra wire run through, we're going to repeat the same steps as we did on the other side, but as you can see, our colors have changed. Our passenger running is going to be purple, our brake is yellow with white, so we will cut as necessary. Put in a little silicone by the connectors. Since they're facing up, this will help prevent water getting in there and corroding the connections. So now we're going to test using an alternate power source to simulate hooking up to your RV. So first we have our tail lights, next we'll check brake lights, and our turn signal. So once you've tested your wiring kit and you know that it works, while you have your fascia off, it's a good time to install other components that you may be using for your flat toe system. So there's a look at the installation of our universal diode wiring kit from Roadmaster on our 2020 Chevy Equinox.